Hey everybody, it's the Mad Master here. I'm doing new videos on my new little thingamajig that I got from a certain man who had a penis-shaped rocket that he made. I'm not going to say who that is. But anyways, I'm doing this first video and I'm going to be doing some other some neat things, hopefully, to people. Anyways, I'm going to try to concentrate on driving and just talk, and you'll see me do things here because this is neat. Fuck, it's a little computer magic, in the words of the drummer of Spinal Tap. Not really computer magic; it's more like plastic magic. But anyways, this video is about the recent comments made by Joe Biden, our president, about Japan and India. And this is, oh god, I'm becoming one of those conservatives with the dash cam. Oh, I don't have the goatee. I don't have like the goatee and shit, and the fucking car seat and all that shit. So don't worry about that shit. I'm not one of those guys, even though I have and it kind of reminds me of that meme. Anyways, this whole thing. I read some of these quotes from Joe Biden. He's talking about our immigration stuff in America and all this stuff. So one thing is like one thing that I can say about this shit is that I'm just trying to let people go here. It's kind of hard to drive and do this, even with this thing that's holding the phone. One of the things that bothers me about these statements, so I'm not like a radical person on immigration. I'm pretty moderate about it. I don't like all the fear mongering about that. I'd rather have a lot of hot Latinas in America, even if some of them came here by dubious means to hit on and stuff. I was kidding. That's kind of half a joke. And even some, hot Middle Eastern women and stuff coming over here. I'm just being a dick. But anyways, the whole thing with this immigration thing, so I'm not sure what I think about it. I know there are sometimes some criminal elements that come over here. I don't know the reason for the Democratic Party's obsession with the immigration policies they have. They used to be a little more moderate about it, and Republicans were ironically less moderate about it at times too, or more on what the liberals are saying now. I'm not sure what I think about all this stuff. I'm not sure what I think about the statistics and all that. So I'm not going to make a comment on that. It's something I have not researched enthusiastically. It's like, you could talk about the COOF. I was on that shit every day, reading about it, reading articles, reading different, reading books even, stuff about that. I was really quite into that whole, it was an obsession of mine to figure out what the hell was going on with all that for the 2-3 years that we had all that stuff going on. So even though I was never an expert on that either, but I knew a little bit more of the talking points to talk about, and had some reactions to it. That's my point. So I don't know about immigration. I'm not sure what I think about it. I think one thing I could say is that if you try to improve the lot in the lives of people in their native country, I think it's better to do that than bombing them or supporting corrupt dictators of the right and the left. If they're destroying their country, just, a little call out to U.S. history, in different regions of the world. So my thoughts on his comments. So this is what he said. He said that India and Japan are xenophobic. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to say this right now. So in the perception that this is the only way you can think, as a thought experiment, you could say this is true. America is exceptional because we accept more immigrants, and we are the leaders of the world. We're the best, and we should tell other people what to do. Now that sounds a lot like imperialism and colonialism to me, does it not to you? Because colonialism is the premise of colonialism is that we can tell your countries what to do. We're gonna be the controllers of your country because you're these primitive people that don't know any better. And ultimately, that's what it sounds like to me as far as what people are doing in this, or what he's saying in the situation, is that we know better. Oh, the shakiness a little bit. We know better than you, Japan and India, because we are better than you. You are just backwards. You have these terrible ideas. Now, I do not agree that it could even be framed as xenophobia, because they have a very homogenous culture. And is that racist? Is that xenophobic? One could argue from a certain point of view, maybe you could hypothetically say that, but it's been like that. I mean, India, for one, is a very diverse culture compared to even Japan, which is more homogenous. So it's false. It's just there's falsity with what he is saying, as far as just the ridiculousness of this whole statement that he's made. And I find it really to be very, very much one of the worst things that Biden's ever said, in the 3.5 years that he's been president. So I think it's a really bad move on his part politically as well. Because, someone could point out, it's like the whole root of neoliberalism in many ways, what they call neoliberalism, which I would define as global coordination between corporations and governments and unelected bureaucracies in coordination. All three of those things in coordination for global capital, bad or good. Sometimes neoliberalism is good, sometimes it's bad. But you're saying, oh, we're so superior. We have Coca-Cola. You have these native drinks in your tribes. Our Coca-Cola is better. So go over there and fight a war in a country because some communist said, oh, well, these guys are about to attack your country because you don't have Coca-Cola. So you should follow our thing. That's what the Cold War was all about, by the way. It wasn't about people's freedoms. It wasn't about, making people free from capitalism or communism. It was about just, it was about these systems that are in power, these systems of power. So yeah, this whole thing, I find to be quite ludicrous that Joe Biden has said, and I find it to be really just totally clueless and tone deaf. It's like it's like you're saying, and this sounds like an old school liberal thing to say, kind of, because we must respect other cultures, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, I don't necessarily agree with that all the time. I don't necessarily think that should be the rule. But in this case, this is a very conservative point of view he's proposing here. It's very conservative. Maybe not in the United States, but worldwide, it's a conservative point of view. Like, in a certain way, it's like an old school conservative, like neocon point of view. Like, well, we're better. We're more enlightened than you. We're going to tell you what to do with your country and your country's immigration because we're better than you. And that's just like such the gall and the ego and the arrogance of this fucking guy, to say this stuff. It's preposterous. So I feel like it's one of the dumbest things he's ever said, honestly. Like, it's just the hubris that's involved with Biden saying, they're two different, first of all, they're apples and oranges, India and Japan, the way that their cultures operate, the way that they're, on the surface, you could say, oh, well, they're both xenophobic. That's just oversimplifying things to the extreme extent as well. And I feel like it's just such a mistake on his part. It's so ludicrous. And, it's like, I mean, well, nationalism is bad. Oh, blah, blah, blah. So it's nationalism. A lot of what's happening right now in our world is, dare I say, I'm not going to use the word globalism because it's been, kind of a tainted term. I'm going to say neoliberal globalization is a better way to put it. If you want to appeal to the old school left, they will talk about neoliberalism all day till the cows come home. As far as and globalization, they used to be against it. I guess, okay, I'll give the globalism thing a little bit more of a credit, credit where credit's due, to use that term. But they're essentially the same thing, just in a different in a different realm in some ways. I gotta get at the right lane. So when people talk about this whole idea about, you know, globalizations, I see it as like the same problem. It's these unaccountable bureaucracies, unelected, unaccountable bureaucracies in coordination with governments, even though the governments are, you know, elected, quote unquote, of course. There's some dubious ideas around that too. And corporations and these governments, and all in coordination to entrench power within a few hands. That's what it is. So that's what's happening, and that is what he is pushing. He is proposing with these ideas. Now, I don't know what the hell the Democrats thing on immigration is. I don't know what the purpose of it is. There's a lot of theories about why they're, you know, flexing in that direction. So I don't know. Some of them I probably agree with, honestly, some of their ideas that they have about immigration, honestly. Like, like I said, I'm a moderate as far as immigration goes. I don't believe the scare tactics of either side are, you know, justified necessarily. And, you know, that the demographic collapse, as the demographic collapse in various countries, you know, gets worse, you know, they want cheap workers and all this stuff. That's pure capitalism. You know, I thought he was a socialist. You know, that's all capitalism, by the way. This is all because of capitalism. I believe in capitalism, but this is an excess and a bad thing about capitalism. You know, it's like, oh, we need more workers. Oh, yeah. I mean, if Biden would have come out and said, you know, I mean, he has a disagreement with India and Japan about immigration. You know, we do things differently. They have their own point of view. It's fine. We feel like this is a better way to do things because of this and this and this. Then that would be one thing, but calling him xenophobic, it's just so stupid. Especially since those cultures are just completely different. It's like a bunch of like samurai. You just imagine this like a caricature, like racist kind of caricature about the Japanese. A bunch of samurais got in a room hundreds of years ago and said, "We will be xenophobic. We will not have immigrants as easily as those Yankees in America." You know, it's like just the dumbest fucking presuppositions I've ever heard in my life. Like just it's so cartoonishly stupid and bad. This is like one of the worst things Biden said. It's just so stupid. But anyways, that's about all.